Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Mel Kiper Jr.
Yes.
And Mel is in the zone, and he's brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone. Mel, good morning. How are we?
Guys, man.
We're good. We're good. So we just had Bradley Chubb on, Mel. And Louis Riddick, as you heard in the draft meeting we had in Baltimore, because it was your hometown, we had to come to you, Mel, for the draft meeting. Everybody had to go to the Great Brain and go to Mel Kiper's place.
I tried to change that, Trey. Nobody listened.
You bet. He says Chubb compares very favorably to Myles Garrett, who was the number one overall pick last year of the Cleveland Browns. And when he finally got over the ankle injury, Myles showed us why he was the number one overall pick. Do you believe that's a fair and apt comparison for Bradley Chubb in this year's draft?
You know, you look at a Cameron Wake type. I went back at the measurables of Wake and what Bradley Chubb is. Myles Garrett was an off the charts. He was a freakish talent, as was Jadeveon Clowney. And both were, Clowney's a phenomenal unblockable player, and Myles Garrett, when he was healthy this year, was unblockable at times. So both are in a special category. Chubb may be just a run below that. But in this draft, he's the best defensive player, and he's certainly in the draft where there's very few defensive ends that are going to be guaranteed starters in this league, maybe beyond Chubb, then Marcus Davenport, Texas San Antonio, and a lot of question marks thereafter. So, Bradley Chubb's the guy. It's going to be interesting, though. Where does he go? When you have the quarterbacks up there high, and you got Saquon Barkley, running back Penn State, up there high, the Cleveland Browns looking at Myles Garrett on one side, Bradley Chubb on the other, with Emmanuel Ogbah coming off as the third guy. So I think the Cleveland Browns are in a great spot, knowing at four guys, they're going to get Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb, and that may be a chance to look at both. Certainly one of those two will be there.
Hey, Mel, just to kind of refresh people about the players in this draft, because we're seeing obviously mock drafts now of where we think players are going to go. But go back to the big board for a moment for those that maybe haven't looked at it, and how many players are listed at other positions other than quarterback? When does that first quarterback show up, just to show how many other players are considered high picks in this draft?
Yeah, I think the majority of people, Goalie, would have a quarterback at 5, 6, 7 in that area. I have Josh Allen at 5, Sam Darnold at 6, and then a drop off to Rose and then a drop to Mayfield. So I think you look at who's the best player in the draft, Saquon Barkley, running back Penn State. Then you look at Bradley Chubb, defensive end NC State. Then you get into players like Roquan Smith, the great linebacker of Georgia, Quentin Nelson, the guard from Notre Dame. So, and then comes the quarterback. So that's where that next group is. Derwin James, the safety, Florida State, Minkah Fitzpatrick from Alabama, DB, and Denzel Ward, the corner from Ohio State, are right there after, or some would say ahead of the quarterback. So that's the top elite players in this draft, the positional guys.
And Mel, that's what makes this draft interesting. Is this hour of Golic and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Listen to Mel and you'll win at the business of drafting football players. But one of the things that came out of that 8-hour meeting we had in Baltimore was that while quarterbacks will go at the top of this draft, arguably the best players in this draft may fall in that 6 to 12 range.
No doubt about it. That's why projections from that 6 to 12 range are all very similar, because you're pushing the quarterbacks up. Then you have an easy situation of mocking those picks because of need and where they'll go. The only, I think, question mark is the 3 DBs, because Derwin James is a true safety, Denzel Ward's a true cover corner, and Minkah Fitzpatrick is, we don't know. He's a hybrid. He's a slot corner, he's a safety. So I think those three are in are different positions, but we know who the players are. And I think Roquan Smith, the linebacker from Georgia, has moved ahead of Tremaine Edmonds from Virginia Tech. Edmonds could be there at 10 to 12, which is pretty remarkable for a kid with his freakish talent. So this draft's very interesting because of those 4 quarterbacks all pressed up near the top of the board.
What trend do you see going on possibly in the first round? Lack of position maybe that we're used to seeing a lot of in the past, or a different trend?
You just don't see defensive ends and outside linebackers. That's the problem this year. You have a quarterback situation where these guys are coming in and you're throwing it all over the yard, yet you can't get guys to get heat on the quarterback out of this draft. So you're seeing outside linebackers, very questionable. Defensive ends, very questionable. That's why Bradley Chubb is the guy. And then Marcus Davenport, Texas San Antonio, is kind of a mid-first. You're hard-pressed to find another guy to put in a late first. But Harold Landry was a little too quiet at Boston College this year for my liking. You look at Lorenzo Carter, Georgia, the workout warrior. The production didn't match the talent. Where are you going after that? So I think that's the issue here is teams trying to find pass rushers better really do some good scouting and maybe find a third to fifth rounder that can become maybe a Robert Mathis type. You may be able to find that type of guy. They're not defined guys in the early part of the draft. And everybody thought Robert Mathis was going to be Robert Mathis. He wouldn't have dropped where he did. So that's always easier after the fact. But defensive ends, outside linebackers this year, just not good, especially at the first and second round area.
Mel Kiper Jr. with us talking about the draft. And I always like to tell this story, Mel, because people ask me all the times at the 15 years that I've done the draft, what's the weirdest things that ever happened during your draft coverage? And I can't remember who the player was or what year it was. I want to say it was like 2007, 2008, maybe 2009. There was a player that was drafted. Now, the NFL at that time puts out a list of all eligible draft players. He wasn't on that list, but in your blue book that was hasn't been done for a few years because everything's online now, Mel Kiper Jr. found this player, and he was in the book. So you had found a player that could be drafted, that was drafted, that the NFL at that time didn't even think was going to be drafted. That's how serious your preparation is. That's how much you take this to heart. I want you to explain to people, because people just see you on ESPN doing it forever. What does this draft mean to you? How did it become such a thing for you?
Well, Trey, you're the only one who knew it that year. I would have never known what you said that happened. So you pointed out, because obviously I've never heard anybody do the research and know the stuff that you do. So you're pointing out stuff I would have never had a clue about. But I think to go back to that, it started with basically when you come up as a kid and you see the NFL and you see the only way to improve a football team is via the draft. There were no trades hardly. There was no free agency, and people weren't seeing these players. So I figured, okay, if you can see the players, tell people, the fans around the country, what these players can do and can't do. And the draft is so critical because that's the only way your team is changing from one year to the next, improving from what they were to what they want to be. I thought the fans, I remember Ernie Accorsi, who was a Hall of Fame GM in the NFL all those years. It was a good friend of mine. He was the one that really gave me great advice and great knowledge and really showed me the way when I was a 16, 18-year-old kid. He always said, hey, don't just give this stuff away. There's a market for this. Fans will crave this type of information. Because at the time, guys, I was just sending it to the NFL and to the media. Okay, it wasn't available to fans back in 78, 79, 80. Became available to fans to purchase in 1981. So that was Ernie Accorsi. He was a great friend all those years and gave me some unbelievable advice.
Talking to Mel Kiper Jr. Check out the First Draft podcast with Mel and Todd McShay. New episodes weekly on the ESPN app and Apple Podcasts. Mel, the key we know to drafts is finding those gems after that first round. And last year, there were a couple at the running back position, Alvin Kamara and Kareem Hunt. Kamara with the Saints, Hunt with the Chiefs in the third round. Who are those guys? Who have the potential to be those guys, the diamond more in the rough?
I think a guy that's going to be a kid out of the SEC who's going to drop to the third round is Nick Chubb, the running back out of Georgia. You're going to see Sony Michel, his teammate at Georgia, go probably second round, maybe late first. You're going to see Ronald Jones, the second out of USC, maybe go second round. And you're going to see Nick Chubb drop just a little bit. And I think as a third round pick, he'll make a lot of sense. A receiver I love. And you remember Isaac Bruce when he came out of Memphis. And he goes to the Rams in the second round. He had a great career. Anthony Miller is out of Memphis. And he is a former walk-on who had a great 2 years at Memphis. I highlighted him on ESPN.com early in the year. Special talent. He could go second round and be a steal. If he drops to the third, it's unbelievable. I don't think he will. I'll give you a defensive lineman, guys, in the third round area that could be better than some of the guys go in the second or even late first is Breeland Speaks, a kid out of Ole Miss. The difference between 2 years ago and this year was remarkable. Played inside, played outside, tested well. Production this year matched that talent. Breeland Speaks is a kid out of Ole Miss. If somebody's going to get in the third round, I think is going to have a very good career as a versatile, talented defensive lineman.
How about a guy, and I'll be a little biased here, at Notre Dame who started to get talk in the Heisman was Josh Adams. The knee injury certainly affected him later on in the season. Thought he would go back to try and improve his draft stock. Where is he right now?
Well, he's in that next tier. That's where you look at a Nick Chubb, a Josh Adams, a Kalen Ballage out of Arizona State, a wild card like Nyheim Hines out of NC State who can do everything, catch, return punts, kickoffs, and run very effectively. Could be a good number two back. He could be this year's version of, say, Dion Lewis is what Nyheim Hines could be. So I think all those guys, Josh Adams, that's that group of running backs that you know, guys, next year and the year after, we're going to say, how'd that guy get to the 4th, 5th round?
Right.
How'd he get there? It happens every year. And one of those guys I mentioned is going to be that 4th or 5th rounder that ends up being a very productive NFL player.
Well, listen, it's one of those things, Mel, is you go through the evaluating process. So many guys, when they're looking at a first-round pick, they want to believe that he checks all the boxes.
Right.
Is he this tall? Is he this fast? Are his hands this size? And sometimes you look for those things as opposed to what you see on tape.
Yeah.
And that's why so many times in the 2nd or 3rd round, you're just watching tape and you're like, damn, that guy can play. And sometimes those picks are better than the first-round picks because people want to defend that first-round pick by saying, well, he checked all the boxes. Speaking of that, Mel, obviously the draft class of 83 from a quarterback perspective is the one that's always talked about. You had 6 in the first round, but let's be honest. Only 3 of those were home runs. They all ended up in the Hall of Fame, obviously, in Dan Marino, John Elway, and Jim Kelly. The other 3, Champagne Tony Eason, no. Todd Blackledge, no. And Ken O'Brien, who was serviceable, but certainly not nearly as one of those other ones. We could have 5 quarterbacks go in the first round here, and maybe potentially 6 if somehow Mason Rudolph gets into the back end of the first round here. 10 years from now, if you had to say, I'm going to bet on these 3 quarterbacks to be the ones in this year's draft, where is Mel putting his money right now?
You know, to go back to 2004 when the 3 went, they were all really good. I remember everybody saying, who's going to be the bust out of Eli, Roethlisberger, and Rivers? And none of the 3 were busts. They were all outstanding quarterbacks, and we're still debating who's the 1, 2, 3 of that group, how you even rank them, but they were all excellent. So that's a rarity, guys, when you get 3 that go high and all become really good and winners in the NFL. I think you look at this group, the one that I think is the one that's the most difficult, and the one that I will say, remember when Manziel came out and said, I don't know what kind of quarterback, man. I have no idea on him. I don't have any idea on Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield to me is one, somebody's going to take him and we hope he's an outstanding, I don't know what kind of, I have no idea on Baker Mayfield. So he's the one I would say I'd push back just a little bit. Josh Rosen, the concern with me is durability. The last 2 years he had the shoulder, then the concussions, and then you get Josh Allen, who I'll tell you, I was kind of skeptical early midseason, and all of a sudden you start watching him play, and then he comes back from that injury, and then he goes through the process, and the improvement that he made with Jordan Palmer was significant. It wasn't just all thrown against air guys. It was in games as well. It was a Central Michigan game, then the Senior Bowl, and then certainly what he's done thereafter. So I went Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen in that order.
Again, I'm with you there. There's a little concern about Baker just because it could go either way. We talk about that fiery impact that he has. Drew Brees certainly is that fiery leader, but you know what? Drew Brees backs it up with the way he plays. That stuff with Baker is really interesting, and you always hear, Mel, well, his teammates love him. Well, yeah, because they're all 18 to 22 years old. Mike, you can relate to this. If that guy is giving you that rah-rah stuff and he's not playing and you're a 28-year-old or 29 offensive or defensive lineman, you don't want to hear any of that. Just go make plays, man. I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. It reminds me, Mel, a little bit of Jameis Winston a few years ago when he put his fingers together and said, let's go eat that win. Yeah. And some of the players were like, dude, what are you talking about? Just go make plays for us to win. So the Baker stuff is great in terms of how it relates to college players. But unless he's playing well, none of that's going to relate to NFL veterans.
Yeah, and I think the main thing with Baker is you're 6 feet and a half, so you got to beat the odds there, and then you have to be eliminating the antics and the drama. And that you look at the great quarterbacks in the NFL. How many brought with them all that other stuff? They didn't. And I think that's the thing that with Baker. And I think if he does that, he has a chance to be a really good quarterback, no doubt about it. But to answer your question, Trey, who would you bet on for me? And I know there are a lot of people who would bet against. I would bet on Josh Allen, and I would bet on Sam Darnold. Darnold, I thought back in August would be the clear-cut guy. He had some hiccups, bad habits. I'll still like him a lot, and I like Josh Allen a lot more than a lot of other people do. And you say, it's crazy, Trey. You brought this up, and I thought it was a great point. I'm sitting there saying everybody's hating on Josh. You said, no, he's going to be the number 1 pick. Shut up. And you're right. I got to realize he's going to be maybe the number 1 pick. So I don't have to defend Josh Allen, but it seems like against a lot of people, they're saying, hey, he shouldn't be. He doesn't deserve it. He's this, he's that. So there's a lot of haters and negativity out there for a guy that could be the number 1 pick overall. So I guess I got to shut up on that and trying to defend Josh Allen. Let his arm defend himself.
Absolutely.
Along those lines, Mel, when you and this is all about seeing who's going to get picked where, but then forecasting what they're going to do. You look at guys that are jumping into their 5th year. We kept talking about the 5th year option and how well they play, like an Odell Beckham, like a Zach Martin, like an Aaron Donald. Who are going to be those guys? Who are a couple guys you think in the next 4 or 5 years are going to have not just a couple of Pro Bowls under the belt, but be all pros as well?
It's a great question. I think when you look at the receivers and the tight end group, and that's a very difficult group to find who that guy is going to be. I would bet on the 2 tight ends, Dallas Goedert, South Dakota State, and Hayden Hurst, South Carolina, because one's the basketball background from Division I AA, and one's a kid who's 24, going to be 25 when he sees him again, who loves the block, and that's kind of a Heath Miller type player when he came out of Virginia. So I would bet on the tight ends. The receivers are interesting, guys. I think these 2 receivers that everybody's pushing back will end up being more productive as rookies and second-year guys than the 3 that went in the top 10 and did very little this past year. You think about where those guys were, John Ross, a Corey Davis and the like. Where are those? Mike Williams. But I think Calvin Ridley from Alabama, who's gotten pushed back, he didn't have the great quarterback throwing the ball, and he didn't have the great vertical jump, but he's a good football player. And DJ Moore from Maryland, who did well on the field with 4 different quarterbacks and had an unbelievable workout. I think those 2 kids, if they go in the 20s, that's a pretty good spot for those 2 receivers to turn out to be a lot better than maybe people think they will be, considering that 3 guys went in the top 10 last year. That I think these 2 guys are just as good as those guys were, and you're going to get them at a better point in the first round. And then on the defensive side, real quick, guys, I think the cornerback position with Jair Alexander, you talk about an exciting kid to watch. When he was healthy at Louisville, he's intercepting passes, he's dynamic after he catches. He's kind of Dion-like in the open field with his return skills, and when he gets the ball in his hands, I would bet on Jair Alexander from Louisville to really have a nice pro career.
Yeah, Jair Alexander, by the way, nicknamed the Louisville secondary the tax boys because they will make you pay. Yeah. And I love the fact that you mentioned Hayden Hurst, Garnet Thor, as they call him in South Carolina. Actually tried to be a professional baseball player and got a $400,000 signing bonus.
That's nice.
Just didn't work out. Yeah. Lost the ability to find that plate, and so instead he's catching balls and doing really well. Mel, you're good. You're the best. We'll talk to you pretty soon, okay, bro?
Thanks, Mel.
Can't wait, guys. Appreciate it, man.
Mel Kiper Jr. is
Alexander
absolute best.
His latest draft going 18 to Seattle as they're trying to somewhat rebuild that defense a little bit.
That would be interesting because they have Shaquem Griffin's brother, Shaquille Griffin, who was drafted last year and ended up playing. And obviously, there's a lot going on there with the reboot of Seattle. But that would be an interesting one because Jair Alexander is a guy who can make plays on the ball and has been there and done it on and off on special teams as well. So, look, some people don't love the draft, and I understand why you don't, because essentially nothing happens. All we are reading off names in a certain order, but it gives us a chance to talk about football in a month where we don't get a chance to really see football being played. And the thing that I love most about the draft more than anything else is that it is the true reality television show.
Yeah, it is.
You've done it before. None of us know what's going to happen. No. Like, for example, how much money could we have made 2 years ago if we had gone to Vegas and said, you know what? I think that top offensive lineman, right before he's drafted, there's going to be video of him smoking weed in a gas mask bong. Yeah. I think that's going to happen. Nobody said that. And then that's what happened with Laramie Tunsil. I mean, weird stuff happens during the draft, and that's what makes it fun.
And expectations are very high. You look at the lottery picks in the NBA, the expectations are high. You look at the first round, especially the top of the first round, expectations are very high. And we've seen over time, I mean, it really is a roll of the dice in the NFL with top draft picks on if they're going to pan out or not.
Yeah. And again, it's about a 50-50 ratio.
Right. Yeah.
So, and people are like, well, why do you do all this information? Because it's the most inexact science there is. For crying out loud, you played, 10 years in the league?
9 years, yep.
9 years in the league, and you were a 744th round draft pick, right?
255.
That's my point. So, I mean, the idea that everybody gets this right is so ridiculous because so often we see players that either were drafted late or weren't drafted. Tom Brady comes to mind, obviously, that have great careers. Russell Wilson was a third-round pick. Jimmy Garoppolo, I believe, was a third-round pick. And now he's one of the 2 highest paid players in all of football. It's just an unbelievable experience.
I just picked a draft. I just picked 2014. Let's just take the first 10 picks and let's see how they hit.
There you go.
All right. Number 1 was Jadeveon Clowney.
I'm going to say that's going to work out.
That's a hit. Yeah. Number 2, Greg Robinson.
No. He was compared to Larry Allen, by the way, coming out.
Monster miss. Yeah. Number 3, Blake Bortles.
That's a big no for me.
That's a miss. 4, Sammy Watkins.
That serviceable, but not nearly the best receiver out of South Carolina or Clemson that year.
Not for the 4th pick.
Yeah.
Number 5, Khalil Mack.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Number 6, Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews has been
solid,
very solid. So I'm gonna give him that one for sure. Number 7, Mike Evans.
Yep.
Definitely give you that one. Number 8, Justin Gilbert.
Out of the league, I believe.
Right. Number 9, Anthony Barr.
Been well. Played very well.
So you give him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And number 10, Eric Ebron.
recently cut, and that's why the Lions are back in the tight end market.
So that's 5
out of 10. It's the ultimate hit or miss, and that's why people want to get all the information, because they want to make sure they have something that proves they will be right when their owner comes calling and say, why did you draft that guy?
Yeah. He checked all the boxes.
All the boxes were there.
That's why you find the gems. And you said it, and you're right. That's why you find the gems in that 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. They don't check all the boxes, but you know what? You know what doesn't lie a lot of times? Is that film that you're watching.
Stanzik, you got something for me?
Yeah, Draft Talk's great, but the gratuitous love between you and Mel was a little much for me. You prep harder. You prep harder. You do the most. You guys were like the opposite of Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan.
That's because our love is real. But the thing there, all I was proving was that Mel at one point had a guy in his book that the NFL didn't even think was draft eligible. I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, what anybody who isn't watching on ESPN News missed is I just leaned over and threw up when all that love stuff was going on.
For the 4th time today.
Yeah. Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
For those of you noticing, if you're watching on ESPN News, Trey and I, my son Mike earlier, and we do a lot of shots too of the crew here.
Absolutely.
Devin and Cliff and
Brett,
Dan, Brett and Allie all have shirts on with drawings on there of like superheroes.
Like you have Batman, I have Robin.
Right. And the reason we're doing it is a good friend of ours and a colleague here at ESPN, Stephanie Walsh. Her son Silas, 7 years old, has been battling cancer for a year now, correct?
Leukemia. 1 year ago today was when he started the fight.
Yeah, and he's going to be doing chemo, maybe doing it up until the year 2020. Silas, again, 7 years old, is a huge superhero fan. So these are his drawings of superheroes that were then put on shirts, and you can get this type of gear, as I'll mention in a second. But, here's a young man who's just, when he's going and getting his treatments, they're talking about how he's just so upbeat, when he's getting his treatments around all the other parents and kids. It's an incredible what these kids and the energy that they have for what they're going through. It just absolutely tears at your heart. So these are Silas's drawings, so they are on shirts. So you go at Golic and Wingo, we have a link up. There's a couple of links. The first link will talk about Silas and what he's going through, and the second link is how you can actually get some of this gear as well. Some of his drawings, again, these are his drawings, which were put onto shirts and such. So we just, want, Stephanie to know we're behind her. A lot of people obviously are going through this. She's a teammate of ours here at ESPN, and we are certainly with her. And even more importantly, our thoughts with her son Silas as he goes through this.
Yeah, Silas Rocket, which is the biggest baller name of all time.
It's a great name, yeah.
So you can get all the information about where you can get one of these shirts, and there's a GoFundMe page pinned to our Twitter feed at Golic and Wingo. So just know, hey, that's what we're doing. We're all in this. And by the way, they're really cool shirts.
They are cool shirts.
That's the other thing about it. Yeah. So we wish Stephanie and Silas all the best, and we'll see what happens going forward. Meanwhile, it's continuing to be very interesting.
Yes, it is.
In New England, Adam Schefter, we have Woj bombs and Shefty bombs and Shefty torpedoes, whatever you want. I'll read the first line of the story that just went out on ESPN.com. Patriots quarterback Tom Brady still has not committed to playing in 2018, even though people who know him believe he will be back for the coming season, league sources told ESPN Wednesday. The lack of any official word from Brady, either privately or publicly, has left some to admit that while they do believe he'll play, they cannot say that for sure. And Mike, what makes this interesting is a variety of things. Seth Wickersham's article came out last year about some difficulties that had gone on between Brady and Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, and some of that about the trading of Jimmy Garoppolo when Bill thought it was all set up, should and when Tom Brady stepped away, that he had Jimmy G there, and the stuff with Alex Guerrero, Tom's trainer. The Patriots came out after that and said, we are united, and they got to the Super Bowl, and then they lost. And then right after the Super Bowl, Gronk was asked a question about possibly retiring, and he didn't say that's ridiculous. He said, where did you hear that?
Right.
Which made you lead to believe that somebody had talked about it that he didn't think was going to get back to somebody in the media. So this is all sort of this continuing story. And what makes it even more interesting now is Tom Brady, I believe, is in Qatar.
He's back. He's home.
Oh, he just got back?
Just got back.
Okay, got back. But where he isn't is at the Patriots' voluntary off-season workouts. He's always been there before, but both he and Gronk are not there. So if you're a Patriots fan who has been on this unbelievable run for 17 years of him playing and Belichick being the head coach going back to the 2001 season, where is your level of concern?
As far as them playing, none.
Zero.
But one thing I do think that New England Patriot fans do have to realize is there is tension.
Yep.
That this isn't I don't know if anybody ever thought it was, but the bottom line is they were winning a ton. But I don't think
we've never seen before.
Exactly. I don't think there's any doubt there is tension of guys who have been there for a while, have a lot of rings on their fingers, and rely on one another. And maybe some of those, like Gronk, like Brady, that are just a little tired of the beat-down mentality that Bill Belichick uses, or the coaching style, I should say, that others who have left there, Danny Amendola being one of them, now in Miami, our own Damian Whitty talking about it. He was there 4 years, and they're very tough years, but he got the payoff of a couple of rings as well. So this is when it's all talked about. This is when it's discussed in the offseason, when you're not there. And again, these are voluntary, and I know, you've been there before. I do understand that, but I do think there is tension there. I don't think there is any doubt
I don't think that's
about
debatable.
that. Not debatable, in my opinion. But what I will say is, all this is doing is getting them all to get together, maybe just later. Maybe it's like, you know what? It's not that I don't want to be there for the offseason. We don't need to be in the same area for a while. Let's hold off on that. But I have zero doubt, and I'm saying zero doubt, that when the season rolls around, we know Belichick's going to be the coach, Brady's going to be the quarterback, and Gronk is going to be out there, I think, this year at tight end. Now, and I know Adam, does a great job.
Clip it and save it. He just said 0% that all three will be there.
Go ahead.
Clip it and save it.
Absolutely
Mark
clip
it down.
Absolutely save it. That they will be there, that at some point they're going to realize. Tom Brady, this guy loves football, talks about how long he wants to play football, and it may not be the greatest relationship right now, but when it gets closer to the season, it is football. This is what Tom Brady does, and this is what Tom Brady wants to do. And he's going to do it in New England. It's not going to be anywhere else. At least right now, it's not going to be anywhere else. So at some point, they are going to all understand that when they all get together, I don't think Tom is going to go in, or Gronk, when he goes back in, are going to think, well, I'm going to go back and it's going to be different. They're going to go back fully understanding this is how Bill Belichick runs it. I go back knowing that, but I also go back knowing I got a great shot at being right back at the Super Bowl again. So I get it. I get the thoughts. I get that we haven't heard it publicly. I understand all of that. I do think the tension has boiled up another notch, has ratcheted up some, but I will again say zero chance, in my opinion, that any one of those three is not doing what they do for the Patriots once the season rolls around.
Look, I think it's very likely that all three will be back, but I've learned long enough that the 0% chance, I'm not willing to go there.
Oh, I know. It's a limb to go out on.
I am not willing to go there.
I am stepping out on that.
No way, shape, or form.
That branch is now bending under my weight.
Well, what's left of you.
Yes.
Let me put this, a year ago would have bending a little more.
Yeah.
Let's be
exactly
clear
right
about that. But look, this is really interesting.
Oh, I think it is. I definitely agree with you on that it has been ratcheted up.
Yeah. Look, just to put it in some sort of historical perspective, okay? Brady has played 17 seasons, but really only 16 because he missed almost all of 2008, the first half of the first game of the year against Kansas City.
And didn't come out of the gate starting as well,
Yeah. He has been in 12 AFC championship games in 16 seasons played. So basically, he's what we've seen from New England with Brady and Belichick and Robert Kraft, those are the only three the constants. Like right now, Gronk is there, but he wasn't there for most of this either. No. He's a 2010 draft pick. So what we're looking at is a quarterback coach and an owner that 75% of the time when these three have been together and playing, you're going to the conference championship game. you're more likely as a member of the Patriots to get to a championship game than any other team's quarterback is likely to complete a pass. That's how ridiculous this has been.
I agree.
And at some point, it is coming to an end.
Yes.
And it certainly feels different this time more than any other offseason.
That I completely agree with. But when it comes down to it, and you know the clock doesn't stop, the days tick away, and you get closer to when you actually have to be there for mandatory things and then training camp in the season. I think Brady loves football enough where what's going to stop Tom Brady from playing?
His family.
Losing that and losing football as being the focus of his life and loving it so much. And maybe part of that, if you believe the reports, is Bill kind of taking that away a little bit because of how long they've been together. And Brady's like, come on, does it still need to be this way? At least with me as well. Yeah. But as I said,
but I don't think you can expect that to change ever. You're not going to expect Bill Belichick to change who he is. That's an unrealistic expectation.
So that's why my thought is they all know what they're going to jump back into when they all, in my opinion, 100% chance will all be playing and coaching for the Patriots that they'll jump into it. Tom Brady wants to play. There is no option. What is Tom Brady going to do? Sit for the year? Demand a trade? I mean, there's no way I see that happening.
No, I think it may be about whether or not he eventually thinks he might be done. I mean, here's the line from not he can't play, but that he's done playing. This is a line from Schefter's story. And by the way, Adam will join us in about 20 minutes or so. There's no question that Brady wants to play football, but he turns 41 in August, wants to spend more time with his family, and there are people around him who would rather see him retire, sources telling ESPN.
Right.
And look, Giselle came out a few years ago, or last offseason, said, Tom's had multiple conctions.
We've heard his wife say, I'm with you.
And then we went back and looked at the injury report, and he's never been listed as having a concussion. So, look, what's the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire? It just seems more now than ever there's a lot of smoke here.
Yeah,
and the question is, will it be cleared or will it be a full-on rush?
I agree with that, and I do think it is the family. There's more to do here. The kids are growing up. There's more to be involved in. I definitely could understand that. Yeah. I don't see it happening this year.
You know who is really excited about this?
Who?
Every other team in the AFC.
How about it?
12 out of 16 years the Patriots have been in the AFC Championship. It's ridiculous. Again, Adam Schefter will join us in about 20 minutes with more on this story. But coming up, the ultimate versatility. Plus, our guy did not show us the way last night.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him,
"Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash?"
His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all good.
Will Shohei Ohtani of the Angels hit or give up more home runs this season?
He's going to give up more home runs.
They call him the Babe Ruth of Japan, Mike Golic.
Yeah, he will give up more home runs than he hits.
And Mookie swings and he hammers one to left center field. This ball's back. This ball's gone. A home run for Mookie Betts. And the Red Sox jump on Ohtani for a 1-0 lead.
Golic and Wingo is presented by Shell. Get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app. Join and start saving 5 cents a gallon today.
All right, that call of the Mookie Betts home run, I think he had 47 of them in the game last night.
Or at least three.
On WEEI. As they got to Shohei Ohtani early, Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But that was a little upset of the apple cart. With what's going on, speaking of a Bretomology term, we do. I believe the upset the apple cart from Bretomology meant something about the human body, and right? It was something about a doctor, Brett, wasn't that what it was?
It initially was like slang for the human body. If you
there you go.
Knocked out.
Got that one right.
You know, like maybe most things when I was in school,
you weren't listening
right after I learned them, I forgot them.
Yeah.
Like Bretomology is the test that we have, and right when that test is over, I
over an hour and a half
ago.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. Brett even works on the show.
Can I tell you something? That's like the draft for me. Like I memorize all these facts, and then 3 weeks later, gone. Like Chad Thomas, defensive end for the Miami Hurricanes, plays 9 instruments, including the euphonium. In a week from now, I won't remember that.
Remember that.
Won't remember that
the euphonium?
The euphonium is one of them, yes.
See, people need to watch the draft just for your little tidbits
there you go.
that.
Lorenzo Carter, that linebacker that Mel was talking about, can't wait till football gives him more time so he can take the cello again. He liked the cello. He was a celloist. Mm-hmm. A cellist.
One thing I'll tell you really quickly, Lorenzo, football doesn't give you more time in the NFL.
No, in the offseason.
You're there earlier and you're there later, my friend.
In the offseason. We'll get into all that. So Shohei was roughed up a little bit. We're still in on Shohei Ohtani.
Yes, we are.
You're still all in.
Oh, definitely am. And I said he would give up more home runs than he would hit. He has hit 3, and he's given up 2, so he's ahead of that pace right now.
He's still ahead of the curve, but he got that blister.
And
he
does.
That blister can be problematic.
Yes, it can.
Rich Hill of the Dodgers. I think it was Aaron Sanchez of the Blue Jays. And way back, Al Leiter had to use the pickle brine. He had blister
for as
issues.
much as I give baseball players sometimes a hard time about the injuries, we always have our fun when they get kind of wacky injury. I won't say anything about a blister for a pitcher.
Stinks.
And what the pitching hand needs. I mean, it's a bad injury for a pitcher. So he only pitched 2 innings. He had been averaging 14 pitches per inning yesterday, was 66 pitches in 2 innings. So to me, that average is 33 an inning, which is over 14, my last math check.
Not so good. That's the same way as, like, I won't get upset, Punny, about a pitcher with a blister, much in the same way I will never have anybody an issue in the marathon with the chafing that goes on there.
Chafing.
Especially with what happened at the Boston Marathon on Monday in those conditions. But Shohei Ohtani is very versatile. He plays the field and hits as well as pitches. But how about Texas Longhorn senior utility man Jake McKenzie when you want to talk about versatility?
So he's got nothing on Jake McKenzie. So the Texas beat UT Rio Grande Valley 13-2. There was a run rule win. Okay, so big win for them. But the mercy rule was not part of history. What is the senior utility man Jake McKenzie saw time at each position on the field. He played all 9 positions in just 6.5 innings.
That's aggressive managing.
Yep.
That's aggressive managing more than anything else.
The last one, he said, catcher was the last one on my bucket list, but to do all 9 in one night, that was pretty fun. He said, I used 5 gloves. All 5 are my gloves.
Now, I'm curious as to why he would use 5, because obviously you have a regular catch. You have the regular's glove, the catcher's mitt, and a first baseman's glove.
First baseman, right. So then you have outfield. I don't know. Listen,
do you need a smaller?
I played Little League baseball. Yeah. I don't know mitts. No, I did play in high school. I forgot I played in high school.
You just forgot you played high school baseball?
I just played my senior year. You know why I played my senior year?
Why?
Because I had never taken the bus home after school in high school, the regular school bus, because I was always involved in sports.
Yeah.
Once wrestling ended after football, then wrestling my senior year.
You had to get on the regular bus?
There was already, I finished school and I was like, wait, I got nothing to do. And I looked over, I said, I'm going to go play baseball.
What position did you play?
First base.
Yeah, how'd you do?
I actually hit, I think, 4 something, high 3s or low 4s.
How can you not remember that you played high school baseball?
It just ran out of my head. I just did it on a whim because I was like, I don't feel like going home right after school.
By the way, I love that was your motivation.
I
just don't want to ride the school bus home, which, by the way, I didn't want to for a different variety of reasons entirely. So did you hit a lot of home runs?
I didn't hit a lot of home runs.
So you were a percentage first baseman. That's not usually a good play.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I did okay though for not having played since Little League.
Right.
You know, to wait all the way till senior year.
Good for you.
You know, and play. It was a lot of fun, and I didn't have to take the bus home. But nothing on Jake McKenzie. All 9 positions in 6.5 innings using 5 gloves. I'm with you. I could see.
I want to talk to Jake just about why he needed 5 different gloves now. Right?
Yeah. I guess maybe.
Brett,
seriously?
What? No,
Brett?
Don't even bother.
I'm just telling you, he said what they had. One of them was for pitching. One of them was for infield. Yeah. One of them was for outfield. One of them was for catching, and one of them was for first base.
Well, no, we figured that. I know that. I just didn't know there were different mitts for the different positions.
Also, Buster Posey 10 years ago played all 9 defensive positions and hit a grand slam in the game.
There you go.
So, Jake
Brettomology.
Wow.
Coming up, Adam Schefter, the original feisty little nugget, will join us on the future of Tom Brady, if apparently there is one, although sources believe there might be, or maybe not. Who knows?
Next. You're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie. This does look fun. Whee-oh! You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15%.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Adam Schefter from the Adam Schefter podcast, as well as everything else he does as a sideline reporter for the NBA, and occasionally breaks news in the NFL. I don't know, maybe once in a while.
Hey, I'm doing an NBA game this weekend.
Yes!
Like I tell you.
And let me say this to you.
Yeah.
Our great boss, Tim Corrigan, said to me, are you up to doing a playoff game before the draft? I said, yeah, no problem. He said, look, we'll be mindful of the fact that you're getting ready for the draft. We'll keep you close by. So I'm thinking, okay, am I going to Washington? Am I going to Miami? Am I going to Milwaukee? What am I doing?
Sure, New Orleans.
So I got a text from Ryan Rucco yesterday, the excellent play-by-play man who texted me, I'm looking forward to working with you Saturday night. See you in Utah.
Seriously?
Thanks, Tim.
And I said, Utah? Yeah. Like, the thought never occurred to me that I'm going to be in Utah.
Timmy Corrigan set you up and knocked you down.
So Timmy Corrigan, that Notre Dame education, not really covering geography. Wow. Connecticut, Utah. Tim, not close. Just saying, not close. All right, we got a lot to get to with you, so let's quickly get to what's trending here. And basically, in what's trending, it's all NBA scores. The Raptors beat the Wizards 130-119. Toronto first 2-0 lead in playoff series franchise history. The Celtics beat the Bucks 120-106. They're up 2-0, which means the series is over. The Celtics 35-0 when they lead a best of 7, 2 games to none. The Bucks 0-13 when they're down 2 games to none. So congratulations, Boston, moving on to the second round. And the Pelicans beat the Trailblazers. They lead 2-0. They have, of course, won both 2 games up in Portland. And the Pacers and Cavs game 2 tonight. Coverage on ESPN Radio begins at 6:30. Again, Tim Corrigan, learn state math and state locations.
10 hours on a plane is not exactly
my deal. We'll be mindful of the draft. Thanks, Timmy. All right, Adam Schefter is here with us, and Adam with a very, for lack of any other term, very interesting story on ESPN.com. And again, the headline is, sources telling you that Tom Brady, who did not go to the off-season workout starts, which he has always done in the past, has not yet decided.
He's not committed.
Not committed, which is the same thing, whether or not he's going to play fully in 2018. So Mike and I were just having this discussion. He believes that both Brady, Belichick, and Gronk will all be back. He said there's 0% chance.
Yeah, I went on a limb.
He believes they won't be back. You went out on that limb. With everything else we've heard about this story, Adam, what's your level of concern here if you're a Patriots fan?
Well, I'll tell you where there's concern. Even if Tom Brady does come back this year, which I think he will. I think he will be back for this year. This retirement talk has begun to come up. And once it starts coming up, it doesn't just go away. Okay, we've heard his wife publicly say, hey, she wants him to retire, right? She has been quoted as saying that. She's talked about his injuries, his concussions, and she, I think, would like to see him move on from the game, especially when she has the means that she does, and he has the means he does. What does he need to do? Now, he loves doing it. He's still playing at an elite level, still one of the best players in the league, arguably the greatest player of all time. And he's won any number of Super Bowls already over the course of his 18 seasons. So he doesn't need to do this any longer than he needs to. So I want to emphasize, again, in talking to people inside, outside the Patriots organization, people who know Tom Brady, they all think, and think is the key word here, that he'll be back. But they all are very quick to admit that they don't know that he'll be back. And he is not committed to being back. And until he does, we don't know. And I tried to say, well, look, I don't want to make more out of this than there necessarily is. But that wasn't the sense I got. I think there's a question here in the minds of some people.
I think what's interesting with the Patriots to me in this story, and I do believe they'll all be back, but just it's all being brought up. One thing you never or rarely put with the Patriots in the offseason is drama. I mean, they're such that team where that locker room is a certain way. Everybody kind of knows how it's all run, and you rarely hear stories or drama. And we're hearing these last year and a half, outside of, they cheat and they're getting in trouble for this or that. I mean, player drama, player to coach drama. You don't really hear this in New England.
Well, it is unusual, and it's unusual for them to be in the position that they are. And it's unusual and unique in the sense that the draft is next week, in a draft in which they have double ones and double twos.
Right. They have the capital to move.
Okay, well, but hold on. They may move and they may not.
Right.
But I think that you could be rest assured that they're going to take a quarterback at some point, relatively early, on the first or second day. New England is going to take a quarterback. Now, the question becomes, as you said, Trey, do the Patriots trade up? Do they not? Because even in the unlikely event that Tom Brady does not return this year,
he's 41 in August.
Okay?
Yeah.
And they're not going to have a quarterback that they draft step in and replace Tom Brady. But if nothing else, and I think they knew this anyway, they have to go begin grooming the guy. They had groomed the guy.
They had the guy.
They had the guy.
Yeah,
they traded the guy in October. So now, with that guy traded and that guy having secured the richest contract in football, that guy now needs to be replaced. And they're going to have to find a new young quarterback, whether or not Tom Brady is back. And again, I want to emphasize, I think he'll be back.
Right.
But I don't know that he'll be back.
So you have him not being at the offseason programs and Gronk not being there either. Now, players have missed offseason programs before. Now, I know Tom usually is at those. Yep. So for Patriot fans, when in your mind should they start to worry? At what point of those guys not showing up to something would you say, okay, now I might worry?
Here's the thing. I don't know how you define when someone should worry, but I'll say this to you. It's an issue now. It's an issue. And it's an issue not only for this season, but for future seasons because, again, you now need to begin to find that replacement for Tom Brady, whether or not he's back for this season. And I go back to covering John Elway in Denver back in the mid to late 1990s when there was speculation towards the end of his career almost every year about whether he'd be back. And the year that he retired, I believe his press conference was the week after the draft when he finally walked away from the game. And I'm not telling you that Tom Brady's going to have a press conference. He may come out today and say, I'm back, for all I know. But, again, there's been no official word. It doesn't sound like any word is coming anytime soon. I think that it is a complicated issue with layers to it that doesn't make it just a simple decision. We know he wants to play. We know he's capable of playing, but we still don't know officially that he's going to play.
Can I ask a question, though? Did every year we hear an official word from him that he's coming back? I mean,
but here's the difference.
It's different this offseason.
Here's the difference. First of all, as Albert Breer pointed out this morning, if you watch the Tom versus Time
right
bio, at the end, he had a different tone to his future than he's had in other years. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, it's not like he sends in a consent form, I'm back,
right.
or he signs a letter of intent to return for the coming season. I don't think anyone in that organization or around him has had a question before. But I think there are some questions now, particularly with him not being there for the start of the offseason program. And until you know from him, and they don't, that he'll be back, it's a question.
Adam Schefter with us, our ESPN NFL insider, when he's not in Utah covering NBA playoff games.
Thank you, Tim Corrigan.
But that's the point here, is it not? Because we've heard this story really since last season, when there was tension between Belichick and Brady and Kraft about Alex Guerrero and the TB12 stuff, where they're working out right across the street sometimes, but they don't go into the facility, and that's why Alex Guerrero had some of his things taken away from him. So this is not if you looked at the story that you just posted today and just say, oh, that's ridiculous. They both expect him to be back, but they're saying there's no commitment. But that's not it. Nothing happens in a vacuum. You have to put this story that you posted today in context with what we heard from Seth Wickersham's story earlier this season, with what Robert Kraft said himself, the Patriots owner, when he got to the Super Bowl. Yeah, this has been a rough season, and there's been some egos that we've had to massage. And then when you heard Rob Gronkowski asked right after the Super Bowl loss, we heard you were talking about retirement, and he didn't say, oh, that's ridiculous, or I'm not talking about that. His response was, how did you hear that? Which meant to me, he had said that to someone in confidence, and he was surprised that maybe that had gotten out that quickly. You put that all into this. It's not just about the story you're posting today. It has to be looked at through a broader prism here.
And I agree with that, and I think that's why I said there are a lot of layers to this. And you haven't even brought up, Trey, the numerous times where Giselle has done public interviews.
Correct, right.
And expressed her feelings. Now, you're married. You're married. If your wife wanted you to walk away, time and time again, would that not enter into your thinking at some point in time? Yes, it would for me, too.
No question.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know whether that's going to drive him from the game now, 2 years, 4 years, or he is going to play to 45. But to your point, Trey, there are a slew of other factors.
Yes.
There is a different feel right now, and he very well may come back. I think that's the prevailing consensus, that he will. But I'm just telling you, in talking to these people, there's enough of a question and enough uncertainty that you cannot say that he is going to be back for sure for the 2018 season right now.
So,
and if you're talking about a player of his stature,
right,
At this time, to me, that's notable.
Yeah, and time will tell, and there's the one team he'll play for would be the Patriots this year. How about another guy in Dez Bryant who doesn't have a team right now, and it doesn't seem there's been any visits? I mean, is this odd that maybe there hasn't been the love that we thought maybe other teams would give?
I don't think a guy like Dez Bryant needs to visit anywhere, to be perfectly frank. I think that he can go do a contract without visiting a single team, and there are enough veterans who have been around the league for a long enough period of time. They know what an organization is like. They know what the coaches are like, and they can speak to the players in that team to get a sense of what it's like to play in that organization. I think the bigger issue here is there's only going to be a select few teams that are interested in the services. It's not April. It's not March 18th. It's April 18th.
Right.
And most of these teams that need wide receivers have filled that need and spent their cap dollars elsewhere, leaving Dez Bryant with a much narrower pool of candidates for his services than there would have been a month ago. So you're only talking about 2, 3, 4 teams tops that would be interested in signing him to the kind of contract that he wants, if that, by the way.
Adam Schefter with us in studio. So with that in mind, obviously that's a problem for Dez. Is it also not a problem for the Cowboys? Not lancing this boil, for lack of a better term, earlier? Because then not only are there a lack of teams for Dez, there's a lack of potential replacements for Dez in Dallas that would have been on the free agent market.
Dallas did exactly what it was going to do during the last month, whether Dez Bryant was on the roster or not. Dallas inquired on Sammy Watkins, who went to the Chiefs for a big contract. Dallas went and signed Allen Hurns. Dallas went and signed Deontay Thompson. Dallas went and had
but I don't think either one of those
top
guys are
wide
looking at
receivers in the draft. No matter what they were going to do with Dallas. Look, Trey, let's be real, okay? The Dallas Cowboys had a very good sense of what was going to happen with Dez Bryant a month ago. They didn't go into those waters over the last month blindly. And in fact, his name was shopped to other teams around the league, and there wasn't a team out there that was interested in trading for that contract.
Why did they wait so long? That really hurt Dez.
Well, I guess I would say this. What do they owe him? Where they paid him 2-3 years ago, huge money.
So do we not? Jerry Jones makes it we want to sound like, he's such this loyal guy and he loves the players and this and that. And if they knew this a month ago and tried to trade and were no trade partners, why do you wait this long for someone you supposedly care about and love, even though you don't want to pay him $16.5 million, which I get. That's a business decision. But boy, they really tied his hands.
Well, it is a business decision. And again, I think the Dallas Cowboys gave him such a lucrative contract that in a certain sense,
$16 million in the next 2 years, what they're going to pay him.
Well, and
what they paid him
already.
What
they paid him 2-3 years ago on the franchise tag when they signed him to a big lucrative extension. If you gave somebody what was his guaranteed money at the time, $37.5 million, whatever it was. I get the exact number.
It was up there for wide receivers.
It was big.
Yeah.
I would feel like, I took care of that guy.
Yeah.
I don't really owe him anything. I'm going to do what's best for my team right now.
And the other thing is, we're talking with Adam Schefter. The one thing, look, Dez is a great, he goes at the point of attack, he goes up and gets the ball as good as anybody, but the one thing he doesn't have is that lid lifting speed, like Sammy Watkins said, who they inquired about, and obviously Brandon Cooks in the trade that brought him to the Rams. And that's the one thing the Cowboys have to address in this year's draft, whether it's at wide receiver or maybe at linebacker. Make sure you find guys that have speed, because that's the one thing the Cowboys as a team don't really have overall team speed. They've got power with that offensive line, and obviously Dak can do a lot of things, and Zeke, when he's there, is a very capable running back. We've seen that, but they don't have that blazing speed at a couple of positions that you think they would need.
Well, they have a chance to address that next week in the draft. I would imagine they will.
They certainly will. Adam, as always, we appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, guys.
Adam Schefter, never making
going
things
to pack
dull.
for Utah, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, check the weather there, see what we got.
All right, get up, go. We got to go. We got to get things for Utah. So Adam is going to Utah, which of course is out west,
right?
Where there are mountains and skiing. Mm-hmm. You know where else there's mountains and skiing?
Denver.
Yeah, that'd be Denver.
Yeah.
By the way, Adam used to work in Denver before he went to
I love Denver.
Denver's a great city.
Oh.
Denver's a great city.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot going on there, and I'm imagining places like Denver and maybe Jacksonville are not upset at all about this news we're hearing about potentially, maybe slightly, Tom Brady not coming back.
If it's a different type of a team there in New England.
And again, because 12 of the last, if you take out 2008 when we only played in one game, in seasons where Tom Brady has played, Patriots have made it to the AFC Championship game 12 out of 16 seasons. In other words, 75% of the time, you're more likely as a Patriot to make it to the AFC Championship game than any other quarterback is to complete a pass.
Yeah.
That's how consistent this situation has been. And one of those teams that might be trying to reboot and get back there is the Denver Broncos.
Right.
Obviously, we heard the Von Miller sound where he's all in on Bradley Chubb coming in at number 5 because they won that Super Bowl when they had Von Miller on one side and DeMarcus Ware on the other.
Right.
Might be an interesting scenario there. And, of course, they made the play for Case Keenum in the offseason, signing him to a contract. What did you think of that signing when it happened?
You know what? I was surprised, in all honesty, right out of the gate that Minnesota went in completely a different direction. Yeah. Case had an excellent year with Minnesota. And
he was our guy. He was our guy.
And has there been another situation now? I think Bridgewater will be the only one that we question here, where 3 quarterbacks from one team are all on different teams next year and start. If Bradford starts with the Arizona Cardinals, we know Case is going to start in Denver, and if I think Josh McCown may start with the Giants. But if Teddy Bridgewater were to start there, I mean, 3 quarterbacks all gone. They just basically bailed on that entire quarterback situation to bring in Kirk Cousins. And I thought Case Keenum had an excellent year.
I agree with you. And let's bring in the new quarterback of the Denver Broncos. Case Keenum joins us now. Case, first of all, congratulations on the move to Denver. Did you expect this? Because obviously last season when you were playing really well for the Vikings, Mike Zimmer would say, well, he's our starter for next week. It never sounded like there was that long-term commitment. So is this a move that you were expecting that you were probably going to be somewhere else in 2018?
You know, I had no idea. I really didn't. My agent did a great job. I let them handle a lot of that stuff. Obviously we listed, some pros and cons of a lot of different places, and I mean, Denver was at the top of the list of just about every list we made. So, when you're looking at situations, it's an incredible situation I'm stepping into, and I'm really excited to be the Denver Broncos quarterback.
Oh, I think it's a great situation for you. As I was just saying, I'm surprised Minnesota bailed on all the quarterbacks there and went a completely different direction. I don't know the relationships there at all, but did you talk to Sam Bradford at all or Teddy Bridgewater at all? And all three are like, well, hell, we're somewhere else now. Any kind of conversation with you three about all being in different spots now?
Not specifically that. We talked and we're all excited for each other, knowing that we all have opportunities ahead of us. I enjoyed my time with those guys. They're great dudes, man. Great players, but great people off the field. So that's what I really enjoy in this business is getting to know the people off the field, and those guys are great.
Case Keenum with us, the new Denver Broncos quarterback coming there off a stellar season in Minnesota. You said that Denver was always at the top of your list. So what made Denver the most attractive option to you as you thought about this might be a place where you might be going?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. Obviously the organization, the history, the culture they have here, a history of winning, and not just winning a little bit, but winning the big one. The team they have in place, receivers here, Demarius, Emmanuel, a great coaching staff that Coach Joseph has put together. Obviously a defense that I've know firsthand can get after the quarterback with Von Miller. And then the city itself. I mean, I heard you guys talking a little bit earlier about Denver. We love the outdoors. We love getting out and exploring stuff. So my family here, we're really excited to be in Denver, the city, and really get to know what it's like out here.
And we know some of the great things Denver has to offer. Is it in your contract? Are you allowed to ski? Are you a skier?
I probably won't be skiing anytime soon. I do like to ski, but I'm probably going to wait till I'm done with my day job before I do that.
It's probably a very, very good idea. How was the conversation with John Elway? Here's this Hall of Fame quarterback running the show in Denver, and they bring you in and sign you. Talk about that first sit down with him and what he had to say.
It was great. Luckily, I'd already met him before, so I'd kind of already got out my little kid fan, jitters out when I got to meet him, a few years ago back when I was in college. But it's incredible. I mean, obviously to come here and to be able to play for one of your childhood, idols, a guy you've looked up to for a long time, it's a dream come true. So I'm very excited to represent. To be the quarterback of the Denver Broncos, just like a lot of the greats before me.
Yeah, and to that point, there was a picture that surfaced of you as a kid with the John Elway jersey, right? Yeah. So this is not just, I've always respected him. Like, he was your guy when you were the little dude.
Yeah, I think I was actually John Elway for Halloween like 3 years in a row. I think from, 10 to like 13. So I went through that phase, and being in Texas, for me, it was the Cowboys and the Broncos. So that's kind of funny.
So, now the question becomes: are you going to be a trick or a treat for John Elway? I mean, that's the question we have to ask, Case.
Come on, man. You know I'm going to answer that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a treat as well. So you mentioned this was a place you wanted to be. Obviously, that defense is there. Von Miller has already gone out and basically campaigned to get Bradley Chubb there with the 5th overall pick, saying he's a comparison of me and Khalil Mack put together. As a quarterback, what would it mean for you if they could get a defensive guy like that and have those two guys that could rush the quarterback?
I think our defense is very talented. And I try to stay away too much from doing my draft analysis. I'm not very good at it. That's not my job. I analyze guys. I do my evaluation of guys when they get in the building, and I see how they work and how they operate. How do they handle adverse situations? So for me, having a good defense is incredible. If I can end every series with a kick, whether it's a punt, a field goal, extra point, and we don't turn the ball over, we got a good chance to win a lot of football games.
I'll say this for you so you don't have to. I know you're not big on the draft, but let me just say this, Trey.
Yeah.
If they took Quentin Nelson, I bet he'd feel even better.
Yeah, that would go very well. Put Quentin Nelson next to Garrett Bowles.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's been an interesting time. There's also been talk maybe about a quarterback. What would you think if they drafted a quarterback 5th?
It's like I said, man. Whoever upstairs, whoever they decide to bring in, I'm excited because I know that's who they feel is going to make this team the best team it can be. And I've always been a fan of competition, especially on your own team. I think it makes you better. It's made me better. I've never been handed anything in my life, so I'm going to earn everything I get. I've earned everything I've gotten up to this point, and that's how I'm going to continue to operate as a starting quarterback at the Denver Broncos. So I want to earn the right to lead this team. I want to earn the right to be a team leader, and I want to earn the right to be able to say that I'm the Denver Broncos quarterback.
Well, you certainly earn your right to have that situation after what you did last offseason. Look, we've said it all along. We thought you were maybe the most underappreciated player in football last year, and we're glad you landed on your feet in Denver. We're looking forward to seeing what happens with you as the guy you went to Halloween for 10 to 30 years, John Elway, the quarterback of the Denver Broncos. Hey, Case, we really appreciate you being with us, and I'm sure we'll talk to you throughout the year, okay?
Thanks, Case.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You got it. Case Keenum with us.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's
he was
great.
John Elway for a few years.
Yeah, come on, you know what my answer is going to be, man. Had to ask what you put it up that way.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I tell you, I think he is going to be a treat.
Listen, I do like him. I mean, Minnesota, they just bailed on all their quarterbacks and shelled out the most for a guy in Kirk Cousins, and we'll see what happens.
Who, by the way, hasn't won a playoff game, which Case Keenum did last year. Just throwing that out there. All right, coming up, Cavs took a gut punch in Game 1 of their series against Indiana. Can they rebound? We'll get to that.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. Phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. That, of course, the tunes you're hearing in the background, Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke, which is also featured on our Amazon Music playlist. Simplest way to listen to the music you love. New customers start your 30-day free trial at AmazonMusic.com. Renews automatically. You can cancel anytime. But again, why would you want to?
There you go.
All right, we are delighted to be joined now on Golic and Wingo. By the way, I almost said NFL Live right there.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why. I almost did. And PJ probably could break down the draft, knowing him. But PJ Carlesimo is joining us. He's calling the Pacers Cavs tonight on ESPN Radio. Friday night he has the Raptors Wizards on ESPN. And Saturday night he has the Warriors Spurs on ESPN Radio. In other words, PJ is going to be doing a lot of traveling, and we're happy that he is doing that. And in between his travels, he joins us now. Let's start, PJ, with the game you're calling tonight, Pacers-Cavs. It was kind of a gut punch to Cleveland after the way they finished out the season fairly strong, losing game one at home to Indiana. What do you expect to happen tonight?
I expect, I was listening to Wendy's quotes coming in. I think LeBron will not be quite as passive as he often is in the first quarter. He loves to involve his teammates. He loves to kind of work his way into the game. But unfortunately, they dug a big hole on the other day, on Sunday, and they were never able to get out of it. So I think he'll be more aggressive early. But frankly, the other guys got to make shots. I mean, Jeff Green was 0 for 7. Kevin Love had a poor shooting night. He did a great job on the boards. But, so many other guys. Kyle Korver, I'm on my way out to their shoot-around in a minute. Kyle Korver played 3 minutes in the first quarter and never played after that. So they just couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. Their three-point shooting was terrible. They were They were 5 for 12 in the third quarter when they made that good run and got back in the game. The rest of the game they were 3 for 22. So yeah, LeBron's got to be aggressive, but even he can't score 70. He needs a lot of help.
Yeah, and as he said, trying to get his guys involved, and those shots just not going down. Is it more that, or is this what the Cavs are closer to being, or are we not giving enough credit to the other side of this and the Pacers' play?
I think both, Michael. I think, the Pacers are a lot better than people realize, myself included. I've only seen them on tape this year when I was getting ready to do another game. I didn't have any of their games. When you see them in person, they're more athletic. They're a little quicker. They can get Indy on defense. That 17 turnovers for Cleveland led to 20 points. Now, Oladipo was all-world. I mean, if Oladipo the other day, he'd have been a first-team All-NBA player the way he played on Sunday afternoon. But Indiana is a much better team than I think a lot of us realized. And Cleveland is fragile this year. Now, they've been fragile other years with LeBron, but I'm not convinced the new guys can step up. You got to start with the old guys. Jeff Green and Kevin Love have got to shoot the ball a lot better, and obviously Kyle Korver. But I don't know if the supporting cast is what LeBron. It's been a soap opera here every year. People forget. Remember the trade in the middle of the year? They pick up Mozgov, J.R., Shump the one year. They replace David Blatt the next year. They kind of go on a walkabout the other year and change the roster again. Kyrie gets hurt. I mean, it's been a soap opera here every year, and they've been able to find a way to get it done. This is the most fragile they've been. But LeBron, to me, is like one of those guys, Michael. You've played against guys like that. You got to put about 4 stakes in his heart before you beat him. So if they're close, I still think he'll find a way to get them through.
P.J. Carlesimo with us, of course, calling the game tonight between the Pacers and Cavs on ESPN Radio. Hey, P.J., let's talk a little bit about what the Pelicans have been able to do. Go up to Portland and win 2 games. Anthony Davis said, hey, if Boogie Cousins hadn't gotten hurt, we'd be able to contend for a championship here in the West. What surprised you the most, or has it surprised you at all, how well they've played on the road these first 2 games?
It surprised me a lot. I disagree with Anthony. I think Boogie Cousins getting hurt in a strange way helped this team. I would question whether they'd be as good a team. As great stats as DeMarcus had, they've kind of fallen into something. It's one of those injuries that this team is playing extremely well right now. I like them the way they are. What surprises me is that Portland's losing, not that New Orleans has won. Portland was clearly the 3rd best team in the West all year, and they played well on both ends of the floor. They got a big guy. Obviously, they got a great backcourt. They really didn't have, I don't think, any holes in their team, and I'm shocked that New Orleans has been able to go in there and win 2 games. Now, Drew Holiday's playing incredible basketball. AD does that all the time, but a lot of guys are stepping up for New Orleans. So, hats off to Alvin Gentry and the job they're doing, but I'm surprised because I really thought Portland was the clear-cut 3rd best team in the West, and I thought they would, and they still might. But I thought they'd find a way through this series for sure.
P.J. Carlesimo joining us, our ESPN NBA analyst, calling Pacers-Cavs tonight on ESPN Radio. Friday night, Raptors-Wizards on ESPN2. Sunday afternoon, Warriors-Spurs on ESPN Radio. The Raptors up 2-0 in their game, in their series over Washington. We've heard from just about everybody, PJ. It's a different Raptors team now. They're playing a little differently. They're ready to get over that hump in the playoffs. Do you see them different than what we've seen in the last couple of years from them, where they've had that roadblock in the playoffs and normally that name was LeBron James?
Well, that's still going to be a roadblock if both of them win in the first round. It was interesting. That game that Philly won, remember about 10 days ago, that cinched third place for them and put them in a much smoother path. Now they got to get by Miami, but forcing Toronto to have to play Cleveland if they both advance in the second round is really going to be a break for whoever comes out of that other side, be it Boston, Philadelphia, whoever it is. The Raptors are a much different team. First of all, they're a better defensive team, but offensively is where they're really noticeably different when you watch them play. Dwayne Casey's committed to playing 9-10 guys. They call it the bench mob. The bench mob has played really well. It's a whole bunch of second-year players, and in addition to that, you've got C.J. Miles, who's the wily vet with that team. They trust each other. They're not as much an isolation team. I think they were in the mid-20s, 22 or 23 in assists last year. They're top 5 this year because they share the ball. So DeMar and Kyle Lowry don't have to pound the ball as much. They're not as easy to defend, and they went from hardly shooting any threes to now they shoot as many as anybody in the league. So they're dramatically different on the offensive end. And the fact that they're playing so many guys, and Case says he's not going to back off in the playoffs. That game last night, they had a huge lead. It almost got away from them. They just stayed with the group, and they found a way to get it done. I do think they're a much improved team, and I do think they're the best team in the Eastern Conference.
P.J. Carlesimo with us, NBA analyst. He'll call the Pacers-Cavs tonight on ESPN Radio. Hey, before we let you go, are we all not talking enough about what Boston is capable of doing? I mean, obviously they lose Hayward at the start of the season. Kyrie Irving is out. Yet somehow Brad Stevens has this team where they are going into the postseason. Jason Tatum plays well. Terry Rozier plays well. Are we not talking enough about the job Boston has done with considering what's happened to them this season?
Without question, Trey. And the guy that I know you would have got to him eventually, the guy who's really more responsible than even Terry or Jason Tatum is Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is playing out of his mind, has been all year. It's not just since Kyrie went down. He's had a great year. The end of last year, he kind of emerged, and people were saying, well, we thought he was pretty good at Cal. We didn't think he was this good. He is this good. But the thing he's doing that's really surprising is he's stepping up and carrying them in games now since Kyrie did go down and playing without Marcus Smart, which, nobody talks about either. Yes, I do think we're all forgetting about them. I think they're going to win this series. I think whoever they meet in the next series, it's going to be a war. People are sleeping on him. Brad Stevens has not done a good job. He's done an exceptional job. They're really accepting of their roles, and their young guys, particularly Rozier and Jason Tatum, who you talked about, and Jaylen Brown, are really playing for the C's.
Yeah, and Al Horford was money down the stretch at the free throw line.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
They've got a guy you can count on night in and night out. Al Horford does as much or as little as he needs to do from game to game.
Listen, and you're a guy we can count on. Again, Pacers-Cavs tonight on ESPN Radio. Friday night, Raptors-Wizards on ESPN2. Sunday afternoon, Warriors-Spurs on ESPN Radio. You get your miles, P.J. Carlesimo.
Thanks, P.J.
You get your miles. Thanks for being with us, my man. Click. Okay, thanks, PJ.
He's done with us.
We appreciate that, and that's all we had from PJ. Again, we want to try and introduce an NBA player to the player that he's faced the most in the past 2 games, because apparently they haven't met.
Hey guys, it's Carol from Virginia, and kudos to Brett for Tecumseh. That was right on. Love your show.
Seriously, Carol, there's no doubt, is related to Brett. Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you've worked so hard for. Visit ProgressiveCommercial.com. I mean, seriously? Carol
is clearly... Brett, do you have any relatives on the East Coast? Do you have relatives in Virginia?
I don't have relatives in Virginia. I have relatives in Florida.
Yeah.
But I don't think my grandmother could locate the line.
All right, just checking.
Her name is not Carol.
Yeah. Her name is... we can't confirm that. So we'll get a better etymology on where the origin of Carol came from. Coming up a little later. That's the next one on Golic and Wingo. Okay, so we started the show with this because it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
It is clearly a good time to be a Toronto Raptor right now because everything is going your way. DeMar DeRozan went off last night, had 37 points in the Game 2 win. They're up 2-0 for the first time ever in a playoff series. And this was DeMar DeRozan trying to talk about his philosophy while being interrupted by his best pal, Kyle Lowry.
I just let the game come to me, the flow of the game. I go based off that. You know, these days, it's not like I got to have the mindset to go out there and, you know, I got to score 30, 40 points. I go out there and play aggressive.
You just had 37. What you mean?
I didn't go out there saying, let me score 30 tonight.
But I'm saying, you had 37. Don't say it like that.
But I'm saying I didn't go out there
saying. But all I'm saying,
you
can't say that when you had 37.
Listen what I'm trying to explain, though, bro.
I understand what you're saying, but you had.
No, you don't. Let me finish. I didn't even.
Can I leave?
Like I said, I didn't go out there planning to score 37 points. I went out there to be aggressive, and with my aggressiveness came out 37 points.
Anybody who has been together with anybody else,
any sort of buddies or relationship, however you want to do it,
any amount of time, you just shake your head and go, "Yeah, had that conversation."
Been there, done
Absolutely have. That was awesome. I love this.
You can't come out there and say if you scored 37. What I was trying to say, man, I wasn't forcing the action.
But the game was coming. 37.
But you just scored 37.
Yeah,
it's
really good.
We put it out there. What commercial should these?
Yeah.
There's a bromance comedy movie with these two.
There's definitely a commercial for them right now. The best one I like is the Twix bar. One being the left, one being the right, being separate but knowing together they're better.
Correct.
So, but
kind
there's
like
a little
Brady
bit
and
of
Belichick.
bickering. There you go.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if that works out. And of course, then. There's the idea of Bucs guard Eric Bledsoe.
Yes.
Listen, the Celtics have taken the first two games. Everybody's contributed. Terry Rozier.
Terry Rozier's had a couple of really good games.
23 points and 21 points. Now, apparently, whether he misspoke or did it, I'm not sure. And after game one, he referred to Eric Bledsoe as Drew Bledsoe.
Drew Bledsoe, right.
Somewhat understandable if you think about it. Patriot, great, Bob Boston, all that kind of stuff.
I don't think Eric Bledsoe.
I don't think Eric Bledsoe thought that about that at all, because this is a reporter's question to Eric Bledsoe after losing game two.
Terry Rozier's gotten off to a strong start to this series, no turnovers in 78 minutes. How personally do you take that matchup?
Who?
Terry Rozier.
I don't even know who that is.
That would be the guy that's owning you.
Yeah, and here's why we don't believe that. According to Second Spectrum, Eric Bledsoe's most common defensive matchup this series has been Terry Rozier, 88 of 127 possessions. Yeah. Bledsoe's most common offensive matchup this series has been Terry Rozier, 78 out of 129 possessions. So of the 256 total matchups Bledsoe has been a part of on both ends of this series, 65% of them, 166, have included some guy named Terry Rozier.
Have to believe it had something to do with the Drew Bledsoe comment.
Although he's still saying,
I don't even know who that is.
I think you do. Yeah, Rozier from Shaker Heights.
Yeah.
Went to Louisville. He had Shaker Heights High School. He was a teammate with a man named Jimmy Pope, who went on to play football at Georgetown and was my son's roommate at Georgetown for 2 years and teammates at Georgetown.
6 degrees of separation.
There you go. Everybody needs to know Terry Rozier.
Wow.
And I think we all know that Terry Rozier, of course, also played for the Maine Red Claws before he got.
Love that name, the Red Claws.
Yeah, that's the way
you
it
know
goes.
exactly why, but that's just a cool name.
All right. So, by the way, coming up tomorrow's show, listen, you have not yet committed to tomorrow's show.
I have not. I've not informed anybody that I am going to be here tomorrow.
Well, but I think there's a 0% chance you won't be here.
You think? But I'm
going out on that limb.
I haven't officially said it.
But I'm going out on that limb.
I have not officially said I will be here tomorrow.
But we are expecting you to return.
100%?
I'll go 97%.
Okay.
There's always that 3% you don't want to talk about. There's also that 3% out there that's always an issue. So we're 97% sure that the big man will be back. We'll also have Carlos Boozer. Kirk Herbstreit will join us. Not talking about college football specifically this time, but his role in the
Sitting
NFL
at the
draft.
big table with you on the draft.
We're excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. Had a good chat with him at our Baltimore meeting when we had to go bow at Mel's altar at our draft meeting. Plus, Stu Gatz will join us, and we have an update on our leadership conference that I think Stu Gatz is going to enjoy.
Yes!
That's all. Tomorrow's show. We'll see you then.